Guys, like I told you, I was going to share my story with you guys. And last year, 2016, I was diagnosed with triple negative stage 2 breast cancer on my right breast. On July of last year, I was taking a shower. I never checked myself. I never did none of that. I was 32 years old. Who thinks of checking themselves? They always say breast cancer, for women over 40 years old, whatever. It doesn't run in my family. None of the women in my family have ever had it. So I didn't think of checking myself or, trying to feel anything. I was taking a shower and I felt it. At that time, that lump was pretty big, was about this size, the size of an egg. And a lot of people tell me, well, how couldn't you feel it before? Or why didn't you, because, well, this tumor seemed to hide because I didn't feel it all the time. So my first time that I felt it, of course I freaked out and I said, wow, what is this? So days went on. I told my mom, and my mom said, you got to get that checked out. So I called my OB-GYN and I told her, and she said, we're going to wait a couple of weeks. Maybe it's your hormones, your menstrual, whatever. And I said, no, we're not. I said, I'm not hanging up the phone until you give me an appointment to see you, a mammogram, something. And she said, I can't do a mammogram yet. I have to check you. And I said, well, what are you going to check? You're going to tell me you're going to do the same thing I did. It's there. It's big and it's there. So she gave me an appointment a couple of weeks after, and it was still July. After my birthday was in July 17, July the 20th or 21st, I don't remember. It was July something. It was after my birthday. I was already 33 years old. And I went to the doctor. Of course, she checked. Oh, it's there. I said, well, yeah. So after that, she said, we can either wait. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to wait. So I insist. And she insists for me to wait. She insists for me to wait because it doesn't run in my family and my age, which has nothing to do. Guys, I did not have any symptoms whatsoever. I looked online, the inverted nipple, the rash, the redness, discharge from your nipple, none of that. I didn't have none of that. So the only thing that I had was that humongous lump. So throughout that week, until I waited until they finally scheduled me for a mammogram, that was in August. I don't remember the date. I have everything written down, but it was in August. And the wait seemed forever for me. I went for a mammogram and they said, you would get a sonogram after the mammogram if we see something suspicious. Sure enough, I was sitting there, did the mammogram. It hurted so bad. A lot of people say it doesn't hurt. For me, it hurted, especially because the lump was there. And they did the mammogram. Right after that, they said, ma'am, sit down and we're gonna have to do a sonogram. I said, okay. At that point, I had that gut feeling. I already had that feeling that I knew something was not right. The technician comes in and she says, Miss Ramirez, let's walk across the hallway to do a sonogram. She was doing the sonogram, and guys, let me just tell you that her face was like, I'm very observant, so I saw her face. And I said, what's wrong? She's like, oh, I'll let the doctor explain, but everything's going to be okay, honey. So I said, okay, I know it's bad. And she's like, no, everything's going to be okay. Well, I went to Memorial Imaging. That's where they did it. Luckily, they're linked to MD Anderson. One of the doctors that came in is one of the doctors for MD Anderson here in Houston. So the doctor walked in and he just straight up blunt told me. He said, this doesn't look good. This is not 100% benign. This looks bad. And I said, what? I said, so what? I have cancer? And he said, I can't tell you, but it looks like you do. And I said, oh, wow. And he's like, to confirm it 100%, we need to do a biopsy. At that point, I'm sitting there laying down and just, my mind is going 100 miles an hour. So then I said, so what's next? And he's like, oh, wait. And I said, now what? And he says, you have another one. I have another what? I have another lump. I had another lump on the bottom of this one, which was linked to my auxiliary notes here, meaning that my tumor was not contained anymore. And he said, so he made an example. If it was a cyst, he said it's like a balloon. You fill it up with water and it's round. He says, what I'm looking at, it looks like a mass. It has a weird shape. It's huge, and it doesn't look 100% benign. So at that point, I walk out of there, and I couldn't talk. My mom was outside in the waiting room, and she asked, she said, what's wrong? And I said, I can't talk. We walked outside, we got in the car, and that was the end of the world for me. I sat there and I just cried and cried, and she looked at me. I'm trying not to cry now. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, I'm gonna die. And she's like, what? And I said, there's a big, suspicious that I have cancer. She says, no, that can't be. And I said, yes. So I told her, I said, Mom, please take care of at that time, my 6-year-old was 5. I said, take care of my 5-year-old. And they said I have another tumor and it's not looking good for me. She says, now what? I said, I have a biopsy the following week. No, in 2 weeks. And she said, okay, we're gonna do whatever test you need to get done, whatever. The whole time, guys, those 2 weeks that I waited for the biopsy were the longest weeks in my entire life. I was going to work like nothing was wrong. I was literally acting like nothing was wrong, but I couldn't eat. I had a knot in my throat that I just could not eat. And I went and got the biopsy, and I didn't tell anybody. My mother was the only one that knew what was going on. So we went and got the biopsy. I'm there. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. They already had everything there. They already had that little clip that they insert on the tumor to mark your cancer tumors. So at that point, I was like, what the hell was this? So they're telling me, explaining the process. So at that point, I'm already, okay, I have cancer. So they did the biopsy. Then they entered those clips. So then they didn't give me the results, supposedly. So I waited another week. I went to work, and at that point, I told a few of my coworkers, I work with nothing but with nothing but men. I'm in law enforcement. I'm a first responder, so it's very hard for you as a woman, and I was the only woman at that time, and still am, day shift, and to talk about it with anybody. What do they have in common with a woman? They don't know. So I told one of my supervisors, which was a male, and he told the rest of the guys. So they all got together and they said, wow, how were you holding on to that? All these, the past 2 months, you've been holding this inside. And I said, yeah. And they said, we don't know how you kept it together here at work. And I said, you know what? I don't know. I just know that I have a knot in my throat and I still can't eat because I'm nervous. I'm freaking out, but I'm not showing it. So I went home. The end of my work week, it was a Tuesday because my Fridays are Tuesdays. I went home. My doctor calls me and she says, are you home? And I said, yes, ma'am. She says, is somebody with you? And I said, yes. It was my mother. So at that point, guys, I do not remember anything past it was positive for cancer. I don't know what else she said to me. Anything else she said, I hanged up, dropped the phone. I was like in shock. But I already knew, like I had that gut instinct, but still I felt like, it's not positive. I mean, it's not possible for me to get cancer. So she confirmed it. I couldn't talk. I don't know if I was going to pass out or what. My mom's face was like, my mom held it together real good. And I just cried me a river. I cried and I cried and I didn't want to talk to nobody. And then I started confirming it to everybody, my family, friends, coworkers, and telling them it's positive. I got the results. I have cancer. At that point, I was crying hysterically. I didn't know what to do. My mind was blank. And I told my mom, oh my God, what am I going to do? And she said, Cindy, get it together. We're gonna get through this. So hold it in. So she called our pastor from our church, and he called me. I still don't remember what he said to me, but he said some powerful words to me that night. And then he told me if him and his wife could come over and talk to me, and I said yes. They came to my house. They prayed. I let it all out. They left. I felt so relieved to have them. My aunt came over. Other than that, a coworker kept blowing up my phone, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to nobody. Why is he calling me? And I'm very thankful he did that, because at that point, like I said, I didn't know nothing about breast cancer. I didn't know nothing of none of that. So he was trying to get a hold of me because he has a friend that she's a 17-year-old breast cancer survivor. And she called me, and it felt so good to talk to her because I was clueless. So she told me she was on her 17th year of cancer free. She told me everything was going to be okay. She talked to me. We talked for hours all that night. I wasn't able to sleep. I'm not going to lie. 3 nights in a row. It was Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I go back to work on Friday. I cried and I cried. I was so upset. Not upset as mad, but upset as crying and saying, I'm too young for this BS. Why am I going through this? I feel good. What went wrong? What happened? So, on Thursday night, I just said, you know what? You need to quit this crap, Cindy. You need to stop crying. Stop being a baby. Get up and fight. Stop going through all those negative thoughts that I was going through, because everybody goes through it. You're human. We're human. We all do. So I said, no. I said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to fight. I don't care what any doctor says. I don't care how bad things look. I'm just going to pretend. And as far as that day on, I've always told everybody there's a lot of pretending in my life. Pretending I'm okay, pretending and being positive. There's many times that I felt that I hit rock bottom through treatment. Many times that you feel alone. You have friends, you have family. They come over, yes they do. But they all have to go to work. They all have a life. Life goes on. Meanwhile, you're stuck in the hospital, getting poked, hours and hours in the hospital. I would go to MD Anderson literally 6 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't come back home until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Every day. It was horrible. And your mind's just thinking 100 miles an hour. You're just thinking all kinds of stuff. A lot of stuff goes through your mind.